The ship drifted quietly through the dark sea of space, its engines humming like a heartbeat. Stars stretched out in all directions, scattered like diamonds over an endless black ocean. Inside the great observation dome, a young human named Eli sat cross-legged on the metal floor, staring at that endless sky. He liked coming here after his shift. It was peaceful, and it reminded him how small and strange life could be. He wasn't alone, though. Across from him sat Lyra, his closest friend on the SS Horizon. She wasn't human. Her skin shimmered faintly under the dome's light, a pale silver blue that seemed alive, pulsing with soft waves of color. Her eyes, large and glassy, reflected the stars like little moons. Lyra was Kailari, one of the new allied species that had joined the Terran expedition fleet. Her people were telepaths, or at least partly so. They could sense emotion, feel thoughts like faint whispers, though they were trained to never enter another mind without permission. Eli trusted her more than anyone else on that ship. They'd saved each other more than once during field missions, shared late meals, traded stories about their worlds. Lyra once said humans felt like fire trapped in clay. Eli wasn't sure if that was a compliment, but she had smiled when she said it, so he'd taken it as one. That night they sat quietly, watching a nebula bloom across the viewport, purple clouds curling and glowing in the dark. "Beautiful," Eli whispered. Lyra tilted her head, her soft voice like wind through glass. "You always say that when you look out there, yet you never look at what's closer." He smiled a little. "What's closer?" She looked directly at him, her expression unreadable. "You, perhaps. You don't see what you already have." He didn't know what to say to that, so he just looked back at the stars. For a long while, neither of them spoke. The hum of the ship, the faint hiss of the oxygen vents, and the gentle beat of his heart filled the silence. And then, he thought something he shouldn't have. It wasn't loud. It wasn't meant to be shared. It was just one of those quiet, fleeting thoughts that come when you look at someone who has changed your life. "She's beautiful," he thought. "Not just her face, but everything she is. I wish she knew how much she means to me." He didn't say it aloud. He barely even realized he'd thought it, but Lyra's eyes widened suddenly, the color of her skin flaring from calm blue to bright violet. Her pupils expanded, the glow around her body pulsing like a heartbeat. Eli blinked. "Hey, Lyra? You okay?" She stared at him as if she'd seen something impossible. Her voice trembled. "You declared?" He frowned. "Declared? Declared what?" Her hand went to her chest, trembling fingers glowing. "I heard it. Your heart's voice. The thought you spoke without sound. Among my people, that is the declaration. The what?" Eli asked, completely lost. Her glow brightened until it painted the walls with soft purple light. "A bond, a promise. You said you wish I knew how much I mean to you." "And I heard it, Eli. That is how a Kalari declares their soul." He froze. His mouth went dry. Wait, no, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't even say it. I was just thinking." But Lyra only smiled, tears glimmering in her silver eyes. "The heart never lies," she whispered, "even when the mouth stays silent." Before Eli could stop her, she pressed her hand over his heart. Her skin was warm, glowing with color that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. He could feel something inside him, like a wave of calm energy, spreading through his chest, up his throat, to his mind. For just a moment he saw flashes of her world, oceans made of glass, skies lit with living light, voices that sang through thought alone. Then it was gone. Lyra pulled back, smiling softly. "It is done," she said. "The bond is sealed." Eli just sat there staring at her in disbelief. "What bond?" He whispered. "Our hearts are joined now," she said simply. "You are Kalari in soul, and I am yours." He opened his mouth, closed it, and opened it again. Lyra, this is not what I meant." But she was already glowing brighter, happier than he had ever seen her. In her mind, something sacred had happened, something eternal. In his, something had gone terribly, terribly wrong. And as the nebula's light spilled across the dome, Eli realized he had just made the most accidental confession in the history of the galaxy. Eli didn't sleep that night. He lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling of his small cabin while the hum of the ship filled the silence. His heart still raced from what had happened in the observation dome. Every time he closed his eyes, He saw Lyra's glowing face, that look of wonder and joy when she pressed her hand over his heart. She had called it a bond, a life promise. He groaned softly and covered his face with his hands. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself. He hadn't meant for any of this to happen. He hadn't declared love or devotion or whatever her people thought a bond was. He had simply thought something kind, something true but private. A simple human thought that was never meant to be heard. But for Lyra, thoughts were not small things. For her kind, thoughts were sacred. The next morning, when he finally dragged himself out of bed, the ship already felt different. When he walked into the cafeteria, people turned to look at him. Some smiled, some whispered. The Kalari crew members gave him respectful nods, their glowing skin pulsing with warm colors. A few even touched their foreheads in salute, a gesture he had seen them give only to their bonded mates. He felt his stomach twist. Lyra sat at a corner table, her glow soft and silver this time. Peaceful. When she saw him, her face lit up in a way that made his chest ache. "Eli," she said warmly. "Come sit." He sat down slowly, trying to smile. "Morning, Lyra." She studied him with those large, glassy eyes. "You look tired." "Didn't sleep much," he admitted. She tilted her head. "Your mind must be full after the bond. That is normal. The joining of hearts takes time to settle." He nearly choked on his drink. The joining of what?" She looked genuinely confused. "Our bond. You spoke the heart words and I accepted. We are joined now. You feel it, don't you?" He froze. He did feel something, a faint warmth in his chest like a quiet echo of her presence. But it wasn't love, it was connection, energy, maybe a side effect of her telepathy. Still, seeing how certain she was, how happy she looked, he couldn't bring himself to correct her. "Yeah," he said weakly. "I guess I do." Her glow brightened. "Good. It means the universe approves." He smiled back, but inside, panic swirled like a storm. As the day went on, the misunderstanding grew roots. Every Kalari he passed offered quiet blessings. A few even addressed him as Bonded One. The human crew teased him at first, jokes about his alien wife and galactic honeymoon. But when they saw the seriousness in the Kailari's eyes, the laughter died quickly. Eli tried again to talk to Lyra later that day. He found her in the lab running scans on samples from their last mission. "Lyra," he began, trying to keep his tone gentle. "About last night, and I think there's been a mistake." She looked up, smiling softly. "No mistake. Only truth. I felt your heart's voice, Eli. It was pure." He rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't mean it like that. Humans, we think things sometimes. Emotional things. It doesn't always mean," she interrupted him with a quiet laugh, a sound like wind chimes. "You humans always hide your hearts behind words. It's beautiful but also sad. You think meaning is something you can choose, but the heart chooses first," he sighed. "Lyra, please." She stepped closer, placing her glowing hand on his arm. "Don't fear it," she whispered. "The bond is not a prison. It is a promise that two beings will walk beside each other, no matter how far apart the stars may be." He looked into her eyes and saw no doubt, no question, only trust. And in that moment, he couldn't bring himself to break it. He couldn't shatter the joy she carried so openly. So he nodded. "All right," he said softly, "if that's what it means to you." Her smile deepened, light spreading gently across her face. "Then we begin a new path together, my heart." That night, back in his cabin, Eli sat alone in the dark. The silver Kalari moonlight glowed faintly through the viewport. He thought of her words. The heart chooses first. He wanted to laugh, maybe cry. He didn't know anymore. All he knew was that he had become something he never expected to be. A man bound to an alien by accident, in a promise he never meant to make, and yet, deep inside him, beneath the confusion and fear, there was a warmth he couldn't quite deny. Maybe he thought some mistakes were meant to happen. For the next few days, the ship felt like a different world. It wasn't that anything looked different. The corridors still glowed with the same dull white lights. The engines still hummed beneath the metal floors. But the way people looked at Eli had changed. Word had spread. It started with the Kalari crew. They moved differently around him now. Slower, softer, more respectful. Whenever he entered a room, they bowed slightly, the way they did toward mated pairs. A few even smiled gently, murmuring blessings in their own musical language. Eli didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. Congratulations. Then the human crew found out. At first they laughed. So, Eli, you finally got the alien girl, huh? One of the engineers joked, clapping him on the back. Another teased, better watch out, man, you might wake up glowing next. He tried to laugh it off, but it only made things worse. When the Kailari overheard the teasing, they became offended. To them, the bond wasn't a joke. It was sacred. They began avoiding the humans who laughed, and soon, quiet tension spread across the ship like static in the air. Captain Reyes called Eli into her office after a few days. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, studying him with tired eyes. Eli, I've had 3 Kalari officers come to me offering blessings for your union. You want to tell me what's going on? He rubbed his temples. It's a misunderstanding, Captain. Lyra read my thoughts by accident. I didn't mean... It wasn't a real declaration. The captain sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. And does she know that? He hesitated. Not exactly. Then you need to fix this, son, she said gently. Because right now half the crew thinks you two are spiritually married, and the other half thinks you're leading her on. Neither looks good. Eli nodded weakly. He wanted to fix it. He really did. But every time he tried to bring it up with Lyra, something inside him stopped. The first time he tried, she was smiling so brightly, glowing softly as they walked through the hydroponic garden. Eli, she said, her voice full of warmth. Since the bond, I feel your presence even when you're far away. It is comforting. How could he crush that? How could he tell her that what she felt so deeply was just a mistake born from a stray thought? The second time, she was showing him the Kelari meditation rituals, soft humming sounds that made the air shimmer. She held his hands, guiding his breathing. Do you feel that? She asked. Our hearts in rhythm. And he did feel it. Her pulse was calm, steady, peaceful, the exact opposite of the chaos inside his chest. He couldn't bring himself to speak. So he said nothing. But silence has its own voice, and it grows heavier each day. The bond between them changed. Lyra began to treat him like part of her. Her words were softer, her eyes always searching his face for emotion. She would bring him food without asking, rest her head on his shoulder when they watched the stars, speak in her native tongue so gently that it almost sounded like a lullaby. To her, it was love. To him, it was kindness wrapped around guilt. And guilt, when it grows too big, starts to feel like a cage. One evening, after a long shift in the engine bay, Eli found himself sitting alone in his bunk, staring at the little silver pendant Lyra had given him. It was the Kelari bond token, a simple loop of metal that glowed faintly with her touch. He turned it over in his fingers, whispering to himself, I didn't mean for this. But in the quiet hum of the cabin, his own voice sounded small, almost like an excuse. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her, about the look in her eyes when she thought he had declared his heart, the way her hands shook when she bonded them. She had trusted him with something sacred, and he had answered with silence. He wished there was an easy way out, some human way to undo what had been done. But among the Kailari, a bond was forever. Only death or betrayal could break it, and betrayal was something Lyra didn't even understand. So Eli did the only thing he could. He kept pretending. He smiled when she smiled, listened when she spoke, and laughed when she glowed in joy. But behind every smile there was the same thought pressing at the back of his mind. I'm lying to her. And he hated himself for it. Yet deep down another thought whispered, quieter, but stronger every day. What if it's not a lie anymore? He didn't know the answer. All he knew was that the more time he spent with her, the more that question began to hurt. Days turned into weeks, and the space between Eli and Lyra slowly began to fill with silence. Not the comfortable kind they used to share, the kind filled with calm and understanding, but a heavy silence that pressed between every word and glance. They still worked together. They still sat side by side in the cafeteria, still walked through the observation dome at night. But the warmth that once surrounded them had changed into something fragile, something that could shatter with just one wrong word. Eli had tried to speak several times. He would open his mouth to tell her the truth, to explain the misunderstanding. But the moment he saw her smile, that gentle, glowing smile, his courage melted away. How could he say it? How could he tell her that what she believed to be the deepest connection of her life was only an accident? Every time he thought about it, he saw her reaction in his mind, her glow fading, her eyes dimming, her heart breaking. And each time he chose silence instead. But silence is dangerous. It builds walls where none existed. Lyra felt it too. She didn't understand why Eli had grown quieter, more distant. She didn't understand why his eyes sometimes looked sad when she reached for his hand, or why he always found excuses to leave early. Among her people, once two souls were bonded, they became one. Emotions flowed naturally between them. Joy, sorrow, peace. Everything was shared. But with Eli, she could not feel that flow anymore. It was as if a door inside him had slowly closed. One night she found him alone in the hangar bay, staring out at the stars. The giant viewing window reflected his face, tired, distant, shadowed by guilt. She approached quietly, her steps light as breath. "Eli," she said softly, "why do you hide your thoughts from me?" He turned, startled. "I'm not hiding anything." Her eyes glowed faintly blue, sadness. "You are. I can feel it. Your mind used to be open, like sunlight on water. Now it is cold and quiet." He swallowed, looking down. "I just have a lot on my mind." "You mean your heart," she said, stepping closer. "You fear something. Is it me?" Her words hit him like a wave. He wanted to say no, to tell her she was never the problem. But the truth burned too deep. "I don't know," he said finally. "Maybe I'm afraid of what I've done." She tilted her head. "Done?" He forced a weak smile. "Forget it. It's nothing." But she didn't believe him. She stepped closer until the soft glow of her skin touched his. "You cannot lie to a bonded one," she whispered. "I feel your guilt." Eli closed his eyes. For a moment he wanted to tell her everything, the mistake, the thought, the misunderstanding. But the words stuck in his throat like thorns. Instead he said, "I just need time." Lyra's glow flickered, uncertain. "Time for what?" He shook his head. "I don't know. To understand what this all means." She stared at him for a long time, her glowing skin slowly dimming. "Among my people," she said quietly, "when two are joined, they do not ask what it means. They simply are." And with that she turned and walked away. Eli watched her go, his heart twisting. For the first time since the accident, she didn't look back. That night the ship felt colder. Even the stars outside seemed further away. The next few days were quiet. Lyra didn't visit him during meals. She didn't wait for him in the dome. She still worked beside him when duty required it, but her voice was softer now, distant, polite instead of warm. Eli missed her laughter, her small teasing comments, the way her glow would brighten when she saw him. He missed her presence, the calm energy she carried with her everywhere. He had wanted to protect her heart, but instead he had broken something even deeper, her trust. And though he didn't say it out loud, the emptiness between them hurt more than anything he had ever felt. Late one night, as he sat alone in his cabin, he looked at the small silver bond pendant again. It still glowed faintly, proof that the connection still lived, even if their hearts were drifting apart. He touched it gently, whispering, "I never meant to lose you." But in the silence that followed, The pendant pulsed softly in answer, as if reminding him that he hadn't lost her yet. Not completely. Somewhere in that vast ship, Lyra was still thinking of him too. And though the rift between them had grown, the thread of their bond, fragile but unbroken, still shimmered faintly in the dark. The storm came without warning. The SS Horizon had been sailing through quiet space for weeks, the stars calm and distant. Then suddenly alarms screamed through the corridors and the floor shuddered beneath everyone's feet. Red lights flashed, painting the ship in pulses of danger. Eli ran from his cabin, pulling on his jacket as crew members rushed past. The captain's voice echoed over the intercom. "Plasma storm detected. All personnel to emergency stations." He sprinted toward the engine bay, his assigned post, heart pounding. The ship shook again, harder this time. The lights flickered. Sparks rained from a junction panel as he passed. When he reached the bay, Lyra was already there. Her skin was glowing bright blue, the color of focus and control. She was shouting orders to the Kailari technicians, her voice calm but firm. Their eyes met across the chaos, and for a moment, everything else disappeared. She gave him a small nod, a sign that she trusted him. That one look cut through all the distance between them. "Eli," she called. "Stabilize the coolant lines. I'll handle the containment field." He didn't hesitate. He ran to the control panel, typing commands with shaking fingers. Numbers flickered red across the screen, pressure rising too fast. The storm outside wasn't just energy. It was alive. A roaring river of plasma that could tear the ship apart if they didn't stabilize it. The hull groaned. Somewhere above, something exploded. The entire room trembled. A pipe burst near the ceiling, spewing steam and sparks. "Lyra!" he shouted. "The containment's failing." "I know," she yelled back, hands flying over glowing Kalari symbols. "I can reroute power, but I need 20 more seconds." "We don't have 20. But she didn't stop. She stepped closer to the energy core, her glow brightening dangerously. The air around her shimmered. She was channeling her own psychic field to reinforce the system. Eli felt his chest tighten. "Lyra, stop. You'll burn out." She turned her head just enough to look at him. Her eyes were bright, calm. "If I stop, we all die." Before he could answer, the floor erupted beneath him. A conduit blew open, throwing him backward. He hit the metal wall hard. The sound knocked from his lungs. The world went white for a moment, lights, fire, pain. When his vision cleared, he saw Lyra running toward him. She dropped to her knees beside him, hands trembling. "Eli, stay with me." He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Everything hurt. His vision blurred again, the red light fading in and out. Then he felt something. A warmth spreading from her hands into his chest. She was touching his heart, her glow brightening until the entire room seemed alive with color. And suddenly, he felt her mind. Her thoughts crashed into him like a wave, clear, raw, and full of emotion. He saw flashes of her memories, her childhood beneath the twin suns of Kalar Prime, the loneliness she carried when she left her home to serve among humans. The first day she met him, how she had been afraid of his fire, his humor, his unpredictability. And then slowly, how that fear had turned into something else. He saw the moment she heard his unspoken thought. "I wish she knew how much she means to me," and how it had filled her with joy so strong she could hardly breathe. She hadn't just heard it, she had felt it, believed it, built her hope upon it, and in that moment, lying broken on the cold metal floor, Eli finally understood what she had truly given him. Faith. Her voice echoed in his mind, trembling but fierce. "You will not die, my heart," he wanted to answer, but his body wouldn't move. So he thought, "Lyra, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you," she heard him. He felt her flinch, a soft pain through the link, and then her warmth deepened. "I know," she whispered silently, "and I forgive you." There was a flash of light, a pulse that threw both of them backward. The emergency lights flickered back to life, and the ship stopped shaking. They had saved it. The storm was fading. When the engineers arrived, they found Lyra kneeling beside Eli, holding his hand tightly. Her glow had dimmed, her strength nearly gone, but she refused to let go. He opened his eyes weakly, meeting her gaze. "You saved me," she smiled faintly. "No," she whispered. "We saved each other." Then she leaned close, pressing her forehead against his. Now you know what it means to be bonded. And for the first time since the accident, he didn't feel guilt, only understanding. Not of her kind or her world, but of something far deeper. The storm had passed, and both outside and within, the storm was gone, but its echo lingered through the ship like a fading heartbeat. The SS Horizon drifted quietly now, its lights dim and steady once more. The crew worked in silence, repairing the damage, whispering prayers of thanks that they were still alive. Eli woke 2 days later in the med bay. The white lights hurt his eyes at first, and every breath felt heavy. A soft hum filled the room, machines keeping track of his pulse. Then he heard a voice. "You're awake." He turned his head slowly and saw Lyra sitting beside his bed. Her glow was faint, her skin pale, like moonlight through thin clouds. But her eyes were calm, and when she smiled, it was gentle and tired. "How long was I out?" he asked. "2 cycles, she said softly. "You hit your head hard. The doctor said you were lucky." He gave a weak laugh. "Yeah, luck seems to follow me lately. The wrong kind." Lyra tilted her head, studying his face. "You joke even now." "It's how humans hide fear," he said. "I know." She looked down, her hands folded neatly in her lap. "I felt it, your fear, your pain, your confusion. When our minds touched in the storm, I saw more than I ever should have." Eli's chest tightened. He looked away. "You saw?" "Yes," she whispered. "I saw everything." Silence filled the space between them. The sound of the machine seemed louder now, steady, rhythmic, like the ticking of time that couldn't be taken back. "I know," she continued softly. "You did not mean to declare. It was not a promise, it was an accident." Her voice didn't shake, but Eli could hear the quiet heartbreak behind her words. He tried to sit up, pain shooting through his ribs. "Lyra, I'm so sorry. I should have told you the truth long ago. I never wanted to hurt you." She shook her head gently. "You did not hurt me, Eli, not truly. What I felt, what I believed, it was beautiful. Even if it was a mistake." He looked at her in disbelief. "Beautiful? Lyra, I lied to you. You were afraid," she said simply. "You feared my pain. You thought silence was kindness. That is not lying, that is being human." Eli swallowed hard. "Maybe, but it doesn't make it right." Lyra smiled faintly, her glow warming just a little. "Among my people, when a bond fades, one must release the other with truth, not shame. You have given me that truth now. I thank you." Her words cut deep, not because they hurt, but because they were gentle. Too gentle for the guilt he carried. He reached for her hand, his fingers brushing the smooth glow of her skin. "Lyra, when you touched my mind during the storm, I felt something too. I saw your memories. I saw how alone you were before you came here, how much hope you carried, and how much it meant to you when you thought I had declared." Her eyes shimmered with tears, though Kalari tears didn't fall. They glowed faintly, like liquid light. "Yes," she whispered. "You made me believe the universe still held warmth, that I could belong among strangers." He squeezed her hand gently. "You do belong. You always have, even without a bond." For a moment, neither spoke. The room felt suspended in quiet peace. Then Lyra drew a slow breath. "When the storm ended, I thought I had lost you. I would have given my life if it meant you lived. That is not because of the bond, Eli. It is because I love." The words struck him like soft thunder, not loud, but full of power. He looked into her eyes. "And I think, maybe I do too. Not in the way your people mean it, not bound by ritual or law, but in the human way. The messy, confusing, honest way." Lyra smiled, her glow rising to a gentle gold. "Then we understand each other at last." Eli nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think we do." For a while they just sat there, her hand in his, the light between them soft and steady. The air felt different, lighter, freer, like something had finally been set right. When she finally stood to leave, she touched his chest one last time, the same way she had during the accidental declaration. But this time there was peace in the gesture. "I release the bond," she whispered, "but the feeling remains." Eli watched her go, her glow fading as she stepped out of the med bay. He felt both loss and relief, but more than that, he felt gratitude, because in the end, the truth hadn't broken them. It had set them free. Weeks passed after the storm. The SS Horizon sailed quietly through the endless dark once more, its hull repaired and its crew healing. Not just from wounds, but from fear. The chaos had faded, replaced by a calm routine. But for Eli, something inside him still hadn't settled. He went about his duties, fixing conduits, checking systems, trading jokes with the crew. But every night, when the ship grew quiet, he found himself standing at the observation dome again, the same place where it had all begun. The stars looked the same as they always had, distant, cold, perfect. Yet now they reminded him of Lyra's eyes, of her glow, of her voice whispering truth through the silence. She had released the bond, she had freed him completely, and yet somehow the bond still felt alive, not as energy, not as psychic light, but as memory. He missed her, the way she tilted her head when she thought, the way she called his name like it meant more than sound. She was still on the ship, but things between them had changed. They spoke politely, worked side by side, but the warmth that once filled every space between them had turned to quiet distance. Until the day she came to him. It was near the end of their mission. The Horizon was returning to Earth, and Lyra's people had sent for her to rejoin the Kalari fleet. She would be leaving soon. Eli was in the cargo bay sealing equipment crates when he felt that familiar calm presence behind him. He turned. Lyra stood there, wrapped in her pale blue travel robe, her glow soft and golden. It was the color of peace. "You're leaving," he said quietly. "Yes," she replied. "My ship arrives tomorrow. My people wish to honor me for what happened during the storm." He smiled faintly. "You deserve it." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the cargo bay filled the silence between their hearts. Then Lyra stepped closer. "I wanted to see you," she said softly. "To say goodbye properly." He tried to smile, but it faltered. "Goodbye sounds so final." She tilted her head, eyes kind. "In Kalari language, there is no word for goodbye. We say Eshelin, which means, until our stars cross again." "That's better," he said with a small laugh. She smiled too, then reached out and placed her glowing hand on his chest, right over his heart. The same gesture she had done that first night in the dome, and again in the med bay when she released him. But this time it felt different, softer, steadier. "I will carry your warmth with me," she whispered. "Humans, you burn brighter than any star." Eli felt something ache deep inside him. He didn't want her to leave, but he knew she had to. Her home, her people, and they needed her. And still some stubborn part of him refused to let this moment end in silence. He took a deep breath. "Lyra," he said, his voice trembling. "There's something I need to do." She blinked. "What is it?" He stepped closer, his hand shaking slightly as he placed it over hers and over his heart. "This time," he said, his voice low but sure, "I am declaring." Her eyes widened. Her glow brightened, golden shifting into soft violet, the color of deep emotion. "Eli," she whispered. "Are you certain? You know what that means to my people?" He nodded slowly. "I do, and maybe I don't understand it the way you do. But I know what it means to me." He met her gaze. "It means I'm not afraid anymore of what I feel or what I don't understand. It means that what I said that day, even if it was an accident, was true. You do mean that much to me." Lyra's lips parted, her glow trembling between gold and violet. "Your heart speaks without walls now." He smiled softly. "Guess I finally learned how." For a moment, the whole world seemed to go still. The hum of the engines, the noise of the bay. Everything faded. There was only them, standing together in the quiet glow of her light. Then gently Lyra leaned forward and rested her forehead against his. Her voice was a whisper like wind between stars. "Then let this be not a bond of duty," she said, "but a bond of choice." He nodded. A human declaration. They stayed like that for a long moment. Two beings from different worlds, joined not by accident or misunderstanding this time, but by truth freely given. When she finally pulled away, her glow shone brighter than ever before. "You never do anything halfway," she said softly. Eli chuckled, eyes wet. "Guess that's the human way." The next day he watched her shuttle rise from the docking bay, a streak of silver light against the stars. As it disappeared into the dark, he felt a strange mix of sorrow and joy. She was gone, but not lost, and somewhere, Out there in the vast ocean of space, a Kailari heart glowed a little brighter because of a human who had once declared, not by mistake, but by choice. Eli smiled at the stars, because now he understood what humanity's gift truly was. Not strength, not power, not even reason. It was the courage to feel, to love, and to declare the truth of one's heart, even across galaxies. And sometimes, that was enough to change the universe.